Hey, it's Heather, and welcome to another episode of Adventures in Gardening. This is our last episode of 2020, sort of a wrap-up of the whole year with lots of pictures and videos. If you're new here, subscribe. If you like plants, like I love plants and I garden indoors and outdoors year-round, subscribe so that you don't miss out. So this year is my first year on YouTube. It's not my first year as a gardener. I've been gardening for over 30 years. And the reason that I started this YouTube channel is because I know that there is a learning curve to being a successful gardener. And I, at the very least, wanted to help people in my circle to kind of get through those obstacles that were going to happen without getting frustrated, because gardening is wonderful. You get to grow your own food and become more self-sufficient, but many times people will get frustrated and just say, I'm never doing that again. And I didn't want that to happen to people that I love that were starting gardening this year, and all of you out there. So my goal was really to help people and get through those hurdles that were going to happen. So this year was definitely full of challenges. I mean, as a seasoned gardener, I could not believe the things that, you just had to laugh sometimes. But you laugh and you roll with the punches. And, our area here, our garden centers had, they had record-breaking sales because there were so many new gardeners that needed all the things, right? And then we had a hard frost on Mother's Day weekend, and some of those same people had to rebuy all their things because they lost tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and things that, we were right on that line where we should have been okay, but we weren't okay. So we had that happen. And then I know that there was a chemical shortage in the stores. The chemicals that kill pests. And as an organic gardener, that really scared me. I'm like, oh my goodness. There's a better way, people. And I tried, through this channel to kind of spread that message. And then, at the end of the season, there's a small garden place over by us here, and they had a sign out that kind of just made me say, yeah, that's it. People must have gotten frustrated. A lot of new gardeners, they put in time, they put in money, they put in their energy, and the sign said, it's not you, it's your soil. Make your soil better for next year. Yeah, that's something that we should have told everybody last spring. And don't give up if you're one of those new gardeners out there that had that frustrating year, or if you're a seasoned gardener, don't give up. It might just be your soil, and we can work on that right now, right where you're at. So when you're at the end of a gardening year, it is so important to review what was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work. What are you never doing again? Kind of like a little wrap up of the whole season. So I am going to share with you, well, first let me tell you how I normally do this. I normally have a book. Let me see if I can even, I don't know, the sun is kind of wonky, where I sketch out all of the different garden beds early in the season, and then I go back and I correct them. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. I also have a calendar that I keep as I went along. I would cross stuff up. I'd be like, no, that was wrong. Don't do that again. So I take all of my notes and then I sketch new plans for the following year, and I add to them as the season goes. So that's how I used to do it. But this year I'm going to do it an open letter to me from me. So a letter to my future self. So I have lots of notes here, but it's not just going to be me yakking, because I've got some pictures and some videos that I'm going to share along the way. Actually, I will move over. Let's see. No. Okay. Okay. Dear me, good job. You did good. We all need to be told that every once in a while, right? it was basically a good gardening year. Now, I know we had challenges, right? We didn't just have challenges in our garden, we had challenges all over the place. But every year that I'm on this side of the soil and I'm doing what I love is a good year. So I'm not going to let anybody tell me that it was a bad year, because we only get this many years, okay? And there was so much good. And last night as I was writing this letter to myself, I looked back at all of the photos and I'm like, yeah, we had a great year. We really did. Challenges, yes. And I so understand now how my grandparents could recall, yeah, that was the summer of 1938. And I'm like, how did they ever remember dates? I get it now. I totally get it. So dear me, good job. Even though we had challenges, you made it through the year. You started the year off with a calendar. I'll show you my calendar. This is my calendar, and I just keep, I take a calendar and I rip it apart and I just paste it into this book here. You started the year off with a calendar with perfect timing. The timing was perfect for all of the seeds that you started and when you planted things outside. Yeah, it was really great. So I'm going to take all of this information off of this calendar and put it in the same dates for 2021. Now, will it work exactly the same? Probably not. But I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. These are guidelines. I swing with the punches. That's what gardeners do, okay? But my timing was really good this year. We had a perfect long spring. We don't get springs like we had here, okay? It was, when I say it was a perfect long spring, you know, we've got, where I live, tulips, daffodils, you know, all of the blooming bulbs, the apple blossoms, the peach blossoms. Normally what happens to me, at least most of my life, is, you know, they come up and then we have like 3 days of 80-degree weather. You know, I'm really exaggerating, but 3 really, really hot days. The flowers blow open and then they wilt and they're gone. But we had a spring where the weather stayed cool. We had a good amount of rain in the early spring, and it was just, the bulbs were just beautiful this year. So, and the salad greens. The salad greens, they didn't bolt, you know. It was just a really great year for cold crops and for all of the early blooming bulbs. So it lasted like almost, you know, perfect. It was really perfect. The pansies stayed really short because of cat. Psst, psst. Hey, Piper. Oh, she's gonna make noise. The pansies stayed really short and bloomed their little hearts out. It was so beautiful. It was a great spring for peas. Okay, the timing was perfect. I soaked them on St. Patrick's Day. I started them in little modules. They grew tall. There were so many peas. It was fantastic. They were taller than me. They were taller than me. And of course, I thoroughly enjoyed the apple trees, the cherry trees, and the peach trees this year. The cold spring, however, was rough on tomato plants. And, you know, it would be fine if I were just growing enough tomato plants for me, because it would have been no problem. I would have kept them indoors, under lights. But on one hand, it was a long cold spring and that was fantastic. But as a tomato plant grower, it was like I was beside myself, okay? I had 1,000 tomato plants, and normally everything goes well and I'm able to slip them outside at a certain point in time, and oh my word, that was a challenge. Have things in place to not let that happen again. I've got a heater, a new greenhouse coming, so yeah, I've addressed that already. So it wasn't a great spring for the tomato plant business, but we did just fine. The iris garden, oh my word, they were like gems. Again, they lasted a long time. It was just, they made a spectacular show this year. I'm reading off of my Dear Me letter. The peonies were incredible, and they have never been better in my garden. They were just gorgeous. Okay, cat. So the dahlias. I woke the dahlias in early April, left them bare root. I have many dahlias. I don't even know how many that I have. I let them wake up and grow up like I always do, and then that late frost happened, and so I pay attention to the nighttime temperatures, and the time it was a matter of luck. It really was that I didn't plant the dahlias out early like I normally do, you know, like the first, second week of May. I didn't get them planted until much later. And you know what? I had the earliest blooms I've ever had on my dahlias, and we had a great dahlia season. It was just so beautiful. So my houseplant collection went out. You know, the houseplants for me, like, I love my houseplants. I take such good care of them that they get really big, and I have a lot of specimen plants now. Okay, so some of them are like back-breaking to move in and out. So, and plus the fact that I had some critters here in my sunroom, you know, we had some aphids, we had some scale, and I was really eager to get them out. I start moving the citrus outside when the nighttime temperatures, you know, are hitting that 40 degree, and it looked like we were all set. I can't tell you how many times this past spring I'm like, it looks like we're all set, and we weren't all set. But I put the house plants out, all the specimen plants, when I thought it was all set, and there was no way I was lifting them back inside again because we were not all set. So I had to cover them with frost blankets for a little while. But you know, they had a great season after that, so it really all worked out. This was my first year growing sweet potatoes, and I have to say that they took up a lot of space for nothing. I mean, it was definitely, I learned a lot. I learned that I need to grow a different variety. So good job on your try me, regroup, and we'll try again next year. You got to share the garden with a lot of critters. Oh, I just love to watch all of the wild animals that come into the garden. I saw for the first time this year, we had a pileated woodpecker. I think that's how you say it, pileated. And we had a beaver that would come down by the shore, and I got to watch him for a couple days. I'm just fascinated by nature out in the garden. Oh, and don't forget the tree frogs and how they were inside one of my cupboards, and they scared me to death. I thought they were snakes, but yeah, they were fun, and you had a lot of toads in the garden this year, which is fantastic because I have not had toads because this girl, she likes to eat toads. Oh, so but we had a lot of toads this year. We had we had the big animals that came to visit the garden, but we also had a great showing of beneficial insects, like the ladybugs that would come and eat the aphids, the praying mantis that would come and eat the cucumber beetles, and I even got to watch a wasp eat a cucumber beetle larvae this year. So we had a lot, a whole army was in the garden this year. So that definitely was payoff for me. You know, it's very tempting to want to use chemicals, but if you want to have beneficial insects as a little army to help you, you have to just let it go, okay? There's other ways that you can fight the bad bugs. We had lots of family fun days, even though I am so grateful that I took videos and took pictures to remind me that it was really a great year. You know, we had, you know, I guess I kind of learned who my core people are out there, but we had great family fun weekends, lots of different activities that we did, lots of cookouts. So that was wonderful. I also learned that Penny is a camera hog. Penny the cat. Because every time I would start to talk, no matter where I was in the garden, she would show up. And I think that Penny was actually on camera more than me. So I don't know. I think she's like a little superstar. The hosta garden was so fantastic this year. It was early. It stayed nice the whole season. It was, I love hostas. I love collecting them. I did add some new hostas to the hosta garden. I don't think I would change anything about the hosta garden. But then the drought started in June and they kind of went downhill. So we had a few months where the hosta gardens were looking really good. So then June started, no rain. The rain stopped. And when I tell you we had no rain for the summer, I couldn't believe it. I usually will clean my house on rainy days. The house didn't get cleaned this year. It just didn't rain. I spent hours watering, hours upon hours. Pests in the garden. All right, so every year is going to be different. This is why it's good to have wrap-up notes, and the opportunity is there to become an expert on all the pests you will ever encounter in the garden, okay? So that's how you need to look at the pests. This year in 2020, really the squash bugs were controllable. Wow, right? I couldn't even believe it. Now, maybe it was because of years past and I took and it paid off from all the squishing, lots and lots of squishing. I don't know. I can't explain it. But I'll tell you who was the big jerk. Oh, well, I got a couple jerks here. The cucumber beetles were, those striped cucumber beetles, they were unbelievable. I could not believe like what they did to my cucumber plants this year. And I really wanted cucumber plants, okay? I learned a lot about them. I learned that, you know, they carry bacteria and they make the leaves shrivel up. And then they use those shriveled leaves to hide in. Right, yeah. So I had this whole system where I would go out and I would hold a jar of water with a little dish soap in it under these like curled up leaves, which I left all the skeletons of the curled up leaves so I could do this. And I would take and shake that shriveled up leaf and they would fall in. And I can't even tell you, it must have been like 100 of them every day. There were so many striped cucumber beetles. So hand picking, that's what I spent a lot of my, if I wasn't watering, I was hand picking the bugs off of the plants. So I have a theory on why I had cucumber beetles, because I don't overhead water. You know, I don't water the foliage of my plants, and we had no rain, and I think that the drought allowed them to have more generations, you know, of offspring than years past. So that's just a theory that I have. Slugs were a really big problem this year. So here's how I'm trying to fix this. Well, I mean, you can't fix slugs, right? Because they're just going to keep coming. But so every time we've had tuna fish like this entire year, I've saved the can, because I use beer in the garden to get rid of my slugs. It is very effective, and I mean, obviously, is it effective? Well, wait a minute, I still have slugs. Anyway, they come and they drown, so it works for me. I don't like to use chemicals in the garden, but I kept all of the tins from the tuna fish so that I didn't have to use my good dishes outside anymore. So, and I have extra beer in the basement, so I'm ready for them when spring comes. So I'll have those traps out really early for them. Let's see. Oh, so it is, dear me, it is so easy to focus on the crops that you're not able to grow. You just focus on that and you shake your little fist but why not rejoice on the things that you did do, right? But I really wanted cucumbers. That's the problem. And I really wanted carrots. I really did. Guess what? Those slugs, they mowed down all of my seedlings for my carrots. I'd still got some carrots, and they were the sweetest, best carrots I've ever had. They were so good. So it's easy to focus on what you can't do, but rejoice in what really went well. The daylilies laughed at the drought. They were gorgeous, okay? I am working on a daylily hill. I was able to, a friend of mine, he grows, his wife grows dahlias, and I was able to pick up some new ones to add to my collection I had already. Just like gems. They are so beautiful. The garlic harvest was the best I ever had. Why? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I do know. Actually, because we had a wet spring, planted them right last year. We had a wet spring, and then it was dry. That's what garlic likes. So, yeah. So it was fantastic. Best ever. I harvested daily, early and daily. I mean, I was harvesting every day for salads, and that was great. So rejoice in those things. We had peaches from the peach trees, not a lot of them, but I had peaches. I had gooseberries, and plenty of them. I was able to make some cakes and to dry some like raisins. I had a great grape harvest, which the grapes are actually in the freezer waiting to become jam with the elderberries. Okay, I just didn't have the time because I was hand-picking bugs and watering, so I just picked them and froze them. So they're still there waiting for me. Now, potatoes. Okay, when the pandemic started, Victory Gardens, that was thrown around, like we gotta grow our own food, and potatoes are a staple for a Victory Garden. I was very enthusiastic. I planted way too many potatoes. We don't eat potatoes. Okay, now we would eat potatoes if we were hungry enough, but going into 2021, knowing how much food came out of the garden this year, I'm gonna grow enough potatoes for Thanksgiving and for Christmas for my family, and I'm going to grow enough potatoes to actually pressure can. So that's my goal for those. Tomatoes. All right, so I said that the tomato plants had a hard start. It was a fine tomato season. It really was. Tomatoes like it hot, sunny, and dry. It was hot, sunny, and dry. I had plenty to can. There were plenty to can. There were plenty to fresh eat. There were still tomatoes on the vine that didn't get picked at the end of the season. Yeah, I know. I have new favorites. Okay, so Ildi is a yellow cherry tomato. Well, it's kind of an oblong tomato. Fantastic. Sweet, smooth. I really like that. And Rosella is another one that it's a round red cherry, so sweet and yummy. My friend Mary, she grew it as well. She likes it. We will have those plants to sell if you're local in Connecticut next year. And Alaskan Fancy, it was a plum tomato, a determinate. Okay, I'm going to grow a lot of those next year. Nice plum tomato. Moving on to a disappointment. I was really busy this year. I had goals and I was trying to achieve, and I've the last few years I've really paid attention to the monarch butterfly migration. I have assisted the monarch caterpillars in my garden to keep them from being eaten by the praying mantis that are here. Did I mention the praying mantis before? No, we have a lot of praying mantis in the garden. They have a job to do, but they don't know the difference between a cabbage moth caterpillar and a monarch caterpillar. So I would normally bring them into a little, kind of like a little terrarium thing that I had, and feed them milkweed until they went through their metamorphosis, and then I would release them. Now, I did not see caterpillars until I think August this year, and I didn't bring them in, and I can't even say, I did, last year I had 2019, I had over 70 releases that I did. I don't know. I do know friends that had better luck with monarchs in their garden this year than I did. I don't know. So reduce your usage of pesticides in your garden, okay? Especially people in the south, as those monarch butterflies are coming up, okay? There are other things, there are other ways to take care of critters and bugs in the garden. Save the monarch butterflies. It was so moving out of spring into summer. It was a long, beautiful summer. Every day was sunny. It was like California. Every day was warm and sunny, and more than warm. It was hot. We had it was like a whole summer of heat wave. I don't mind the heat so much. It allowed a lot of time for extra projects to get done outside. For special clearing of new areas in the garden. It allowed for me to rake out the lake because the water level went down so low, so I was able to do that. So in early August, we had a devastating tropical storm that I couldn't even believe. The timing was terrible. I thought, that's it. There's not going to be any more tomatoes. The garden's going to be just a disaster. And for the most part, the garden came through it. But the cleanup from that tropical storm, it took weeks to clean everything up. No big trees fell, but lots and lots of branches. So we lost a lot of our leaves from the trees in August. And yeah, it was just a mess. But we're grateful that I know a lot of people had it much worse. The fall was like another summer. By that time, we did not have a spectacular foliage show this year because a lot of the leaves they dried up and they just fell. It was still really pretty though, so can't complain. It was a great fall too. So here we are, and everything is tucked in for the winter. The garlic and the shallots are poking through their mulch outside, ready for their winter rest. The pantry is full. Great job on all the canning and all of the fermenting and drying of the vegetables this year. You did really good. Our seeds are all bagged up. We've saved our seeds, and we have bought some seeds already, but there's more seeds to be bought. Next year's coleus are doing well on the windowsills in the kitchen. The dahlias were put to bed 2 days before Thanksgiving. They took up the entire floor in this room, okay? So they are now downstairs, and I will check on them once a month for the whole winter. Just give them a little spritz. That's what I do with them. So, things to improve and problems to solve. Okay, so you spent a lot of time watering this year. A lot of time watering. You could have been doing other things, right? Well, we need to figure out how to fix this, all right? So here's what I'm thinking. Sitting here right now, looking back at everything, You need to get mulch, and you need to get it early, and you need to really mulch all the gardens, okay? I think that I get wrapped up in early spring and I don't get them mulched like I should. So I'm hoping that that will help solve some of the watering problem, but I really do need to get some kind of an irrigation system. So if you have any ideas, lay it on me. We need to refine our lineup of crops. Okay, what are we trying to do here? All right, what are we trying to get from the garden? Yes, I know it is an experience and you love to garden, right? But what do we want out of the vegetable garden? With all of the space right now that is a clean slate out there, what do we want out of it? So here's my list. I want to preserve tomatoes. So that means I'm going to need a lot of tomato plants. I want to can pickles. Yeah. I want to pickle beans and I want to pressure can beans. Okay. I want to, and this year I want to grow my own onions. All right. I want my own crop that is going to, so that I can store it, because I actually have not gotten a good crop of onions. And I want to do shelling peas. So looking at that list right there, that's what I need to fill in on my map first, okay? It's so easy to get caught up in the novelties, in the seed catalog, things that you're growing just for fun. When you have a limited amount of land, you got to get the important stuff in first. So I just need to keep that, my end game. I need to keep my end game in sight. Other things to improve on this year are really being more proactive on the critters. I need to know my enemies, okay, and be prepared for them. So like getting the slug traps ready earlier. You know what worked really well last year? I think I skipped an entire page here. What worked really well last year was the foil on the I wrapped foil around the squash bug. I wrapped foil around the vines of the squash plants, and that really helped with the squash vine borer. I did not have an issue with squash vine borer, so that was a really good thing. So kind of just like you know, whatever your situation was or with bad bugs in the garden this year, read up on them this winter, and so that you can be prepared for them. Lastly, dear me, you got to take better care of yourself. Believe it or not, the summertime I am go, 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 and I do not take care of myself the way that I should. So I have to figure out how to water the garden less and still take care of me. I'll go the whole day without eating, you know, because I'm just out there, and I'll eat, you know, grab a big basket of lettuce and bring it inside and have that for dinner way late in the day. So you need to take better care of yourself, and for God's sake, please buy some sunscreen. It was so hot and so sunny, and I don't wear sunscreen. I was looking a little bit like the Crypt Keeper by the end of the season. Buy some sunscreen, okay? So that is the year in review. It is so important to kind of, this year, it seems like it went by super quick and it lasted really long at the same time. I can't really explain it. That's why it's so important to have these notes so that you can, you know, do better this coming year in your garden, to grow more, to have more fun with your garden, because that really is the goal. So thanks for listening to me kind of think out or talk out my entire 2020 so that I can be a better gardener in 2021. I would love to hear how your garden went, what your plans are for the following year. Remember, life is an adventure. You got to enjoy every day. And by taking in and wrapping up the year and saying what you liked and what you didn't like, it's going to help you to have more fun the following year in your garden. I would love it if you'd subscribe so we can stay in touch and you don't miss out on the next adventure in gardening. See you soon.